Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Sage Intacct demonstration. So I'm Neil Grabarnik, Sage Intacct Sales Consultant, and I'm joined here by Pierre Shields, who is our Intacct Solutions Consultant. A quick overview for today, about 5 minutes from me, 40 minutes from Pierre, and then some time for your questions. Before we move to the demo, just a little information about Vision 33. Selecting the right software is important, but the right partner is the real difference maker for your business. A few things Vision 33 brings to the table: extensive support and industry experience. We have many longtime customers who rely on our partnership to support their business, and we're a leader in the Sage community. Implementation is just the beginning of your journey. Vision 33 is here for long-term support and customer care. Ultimately, it's our consistency, reliability, focus on excellent customer experiences, and leveraging our knowledge to help you transform accounting frustrations into success and strategic growth. And like Sage, Vision 33 is a global company, but we like to say we operate as a small business. Our main operations are in the US, Canada, and the UK, and we have certified consultants to serve you locally. And here are some of our excellent customers running Sage Intacct. They come from all over the spectrum, including nonprofit, SaaS and technology, professional services, and more. I'm sure most of you have done your initial research on Sage Intacct, but here are a few highlights. So Vision 33's biggest customer footprint is nonprofit, where we have approximately 35% of our client base. And building expertise in these verticals really helps us guide our customers down the right path with their implementation, including your sector's best practices for reporting. And here's a quick snapshot of Sage's global reach. Sage has millions of customers worldwide, and customers cut their close time by up to 70%. Here's another snapshot that shows Sage Intacct's global reach. It serves customers in 80 plus countries and in 130 plus functional currencies. And if you're interested in the underlying numbers, Sage Intacct is as secure as it gets. You no longer need to worry about backups, downtime, and costly upgrades. It just works all the time. And Sage Intacct isn't a solution that was retrofitted for the cloud. It's a cloud native solution from its first line of code. It's an affordable, easy to use solution for finance teams that need only specialized finance tools. It's also a modular solution, which means you only pay for what you need now, and you can add more functionality when you need it. We call Sage Intacct a best-of-breed solution, and its open API makes it easy to seamlessly integrate with other best-of-breed solutions. For integrations, Sage has what's called the Sage Intacct Marketplace, filled with pre-built integrations to other best-of-breed solutions for CRM, e-commerce, and much more. And if the solution you want to integrate isn't on the Sage Intacct Marketplace, Vision 33 can build the integration for you with Saltbox, which is our exclusive cloud-based integration solution built by our automation and integration experts. And just a final word about Sage Intacct's embedded AI. When it's not built into our demo environment just yet, we want to introduce you to Sage Copilot. So basically, Sage Copilot is like getting a very smart productivity assistant. It gives you answers you can trust and tools for a smoother, faster month-end close. So be sure to ask your consultant about Sage Copilot when they follow up with you. So that's it for me. And now I'll turn it over to Pierre for the demo. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Neil. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Pierre Shields. I'm a Sage Intacct Solutions consultant. I've been working with ERPs for about 40 years. I'm pretty excited about today because we have a lot of people around the table from a whole bunch of different industries, a whole bunch of different verticals, which is really interesting. So today's session is designed to help you evaluate whether Sage Intacct can improve visibility, reduce your manual work, and support growth without adding reporting complexity. So instead of walking you through the agenda, I'm just going to help frame a little bit what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be taking a look at four main pillars that I think are the greatest features, in my humble opinion, of Sage Intacct. The first one we're going to be taking a look at is dashboards and reporting. We're also going to be taking a look at dimensional reporting and the flexibility that it creates, as opposed to the good old strategy of using segments in our chart of accounts. We're going to be taking a look at how Sage deals with multi-entity multi-entities rather. And the last thing we're going to talk about is something out of the software itself. We're going to be talking about what the difference is between a monolith and a best of breed, and why Sage Intacct is an amazing solution for companies like ours and the verticals that we belong to. Again, a whole bunch of people around the table today. There's some non-for-profits, there's some software as a service, there's some professionals, there's some distribution companies. So very, very exciting. Today is not going to be a clickathon. It's not going to be a feature fest. It's not going to be, we're not going to be clicking all over the place. We're going to be basically taking a look at Sage Intacct at 30,000 feet. Because I think we need the time to assess globally how the system works. And once we finish doing that, I think you'll be interested in saying, let's go further. And I want to explore this a little bit more. By exploring it a little bit more, we go through a discovery process, and then we give you a demo that's really fine-tuned to your particular needs. Oh, no, another thing is we have Matthew, who's also a Sage consultant. If there's any questions that I can't handle, Matthew and Neil should be able to pick them up. All right. First thing we're going to look at. Okay, so this one's exciting. This is my favorite feature. You'll hear me say that about 10 times today. This is my favorite feature. So my favorite feature is the dashboard, which I'm going to show you in a couple of seconds. For me, looking at a dashboard is a little bit like what's called in astronomy first light. There's an observatory that just opened up or just started working last June called the Vera Rubin Observatory. And when they got first light, that's when the astronomers first see what the telescope has to present in terms of stars, galaxies, and everything else. And that becomes an aha moment. And that aha moment is the same thing that we see when people log into their system for the first time on Sage Intacct and they see the historical data, they see their current data, they're able to do what if scenarios and all of that rigmarole. That's what I consider first light. It's very, very exciting for everybody. So let me share my screen and let's go look at some of our dashboards. Can you see my screen all right, Neil?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to skip away from this introduction or homepage because yes, it's interesting, but time is money. So let's jump to the next thing. What I want to look at is our dashboards first. So I'll click up here on dashboards. You'll notice we have a gazillion dashboards. Sage Intacct has been around for a while. We've done lots of implementations with lots of different kinds of companies. So over time, the system has really been built around best practices for individual industries. When we implement for software as a service industry, we have different templates than non-for-profit companies and so on. So the demo environment I'm using now is a non-for-profit demo environment, which would be different from an environment if you're a distribution company. So now here we see, for example, the dashboards. I have some analysis views, compliance, dynamics, allocations, and so on. And each one of those has a whole bunch of different, for example, analysis views. We have all of these different analysis views completely built into the system, these dashboards, though they are 100% customizable by you and they are 100% live and in real time. So the one I prefer, or my favorite one, is I'll come down here to the role-based dashboards and we'll go right over to the CFO. So I click on my CFO dashboard. Now, a dashboard is something that you should be able to come in every morning. The first thing you do is you open up your dashboard. It tells you what's gone on, what needs to be addressed, what needs to be done. Do I have any tasks to take care of? And also, I'm able to use it to do some analysis. So you shouldn't be coming in the morning if you're an AP manager or an AR manager. You shouldn't come in every morning wondering, what am I going to do? It should be presented to you. So here we have a CFO dashboard. So the CFO dashboard is fine-tuned for the CFO. As we can tell here, for example, there's a total revenue, total expenditures, net assets, program efficiency, cash, et cetera, et cetera. Now, these values can be drilled down on. Let's go to this 9 million here. I'll click on this. That's a Pierre mouse issue. So you'll see what I just clicked on was my expenditures, and here's the detail of my expenditures. So I'm able to drill down from any item that's on my dashboard, and I'm able to drill down to the transaction levels. Again, this is a demo environment, so the transaction details are not necessarily there. A lot of history was brought in, but they're accumulated journal entries. So I'll close this here. So these are our cards up here, and our cards up here are the very, very fast, yes, things are good, things are not so good kind of thing. So we see there's a whole bunch of red here. Whoops, total expenditures are up, net assets are down, cash is up, which is good. What's going on? So these are all pulled directly out of the data from our system. But you'll notice there's something here called individual served. So we have our accounts over here, but we also have statistical accounts that we can create. So we can do what if scenarios and have calculated fields by creating our statistical accounts. So 4,000 individuals served, we could divide our total expenditures, 9 million by 4,000, and tell us how much it cost per person served. So again, a whole bunch of possibilities with the information we have here. As I was saying, we drilled down here. When they're calculated fields, you can't drill down. For example, the cost learning per hour, it'll tell you, whoops, this is a calculated field. It's calculated from other data, so it can't be drilled down on. So our dashboards are real time. They're not static. Every number is live. Everything here is live. What's really neat is there's no exporting or importing anything from Excel. You're not merging stuff. You're not combining tons of spreadsheets. There's only one version of the truth, and this is it. I'll scroll down a little bit, show you this dashboard a little bit more. So interesting, I got my profit and loss or my revenue trends report. I got my financial statements here. Let's go look at another dashboard that I really like. So there's a dashboard called Outcomes. Actually, before we do that, let me show you the roles, the different role-based ones. So we have the AP manager. So if you're in accounts payables, you want to see something different. So here, of course, where are we at with the payables, intercompany payables, and cash equivalents? If we go to the accounts receivables, we'll see that the dashboard is actually built for accounts receivable. Everything you see here, everything you see here can be moved around, customized. This information comes from reports that are generated on the back end. And as I said, since we've been doing this for so long, we have zillions and zillions of reports that are used for these dashboards. Though, what we do is that we limit ourselves to best practices because over time, we've learned the best practices per industry. Let's come to the outcomes dashboard. So organizational dashboard. So this is an interesting one. We have the number of clients served for the business, the meals that we serve, the volunteer hours, total program expenses, and average donation. So these are really interesting. But again, the first few here are not figures that come from accounts. They're figures that come from our statistical information that we're going to use to compute things down the line. So we have, for example, our revenue and expenditures down here. We can see, for example, actually, I'm not going to drill down on any of these right now. Something that's interesting too is that here we have the information for all of our funds. What I can do here is I can limit myself to a fund in particular so that I can take a look at how our funds compare to each other. Let's click on apply. We'll go see this one. And there we go, different numbers. Different numbers, different charts, different information. Now, this again is very practical for us to do what if scenarios and to take a look very quickly. But when we want to drill down, we can drill down from this information, but we want to do more complex analysis. That's where the reporting comes in, which we'll take a look at in a couple of seconds. So the question we want to ask ourselves here is, how do we create dashboards and reports like this without our system becoming overly complex? And this is my favorite part of Sage. Once again, I'm going to show you what we call dimensions. So let's go take a look at those. So we'll try to go through this quickly, but this is the heart of the way our system works. So traditional GL structures versus dimensional accounting. Traditional GL structures, I mean, you've seen them all over the place. There are some systems that use dimensional accounting, but they're few and far between, and they're not the same tier as Sage Intacct. So traditional chart of accounts looks like this. If I want to create a membership revenue account, I've got a certain number attached to it. But if I have different chapters, different branches, different locations, depending on how you call them, I'm going to create an account for each one of those permutations. So here I have 6 branches, so I'm going to have 6 chart of accounts. Now imagine if I wanted to track member type per account entry, if I wanted to track fund, project, et cetera, event. How do I do that? Well, the old traditional way, it gets a little bit complicated. So the problem, as we see it here, is that the structure is embedded in the chart of accounts. There's thousands of accounts that can be created over time. They're difficult to maintain, and it's hard to change reporting after the fact. Even when your chart of account is built with segments, it becomes really difficult. And also, those reports aren't very optimized. So when you click on the button to generate them, the lights in the building kind of go down and whoop, okay. Sage Intacct Dimensional Architecture. Here's how it works. So we'll create an account called 4,000 membership revenue, and then we'll create the dimensions that we need. The dimensions can be seen as tags that are attached to the account number. The account itself can be seen as the financial bucket, and the dimensions are more the business intelligence buckets. So we want to have dimensions that are chapters, district, program, fundraising campaign, event, and member type in our non-for-profit. So what does this look like? Well, it gives us a simple chart of accounts. It gives us flexible reporting, and there's no GL redesign when the organization changes. Thank goodness. Because to be honest, when people first adopt Sage Intacct, they're reworking their GL. They're taking a look at what are the best practices if they haven't been looked at in a while, which is usually the case. Okay, let's take a look at how traditional GL structures versus dimensional accounting structures are used to create reports. So the desired report, I want a report that gives me my accounts, district, chapter, program, campaign, event, and member type. Remember I was saying that it was very complicated if you don't have dimensions. And the reason is this. Here are, the member fee account. And I have, this one is for District 6, Chapter Atlanta. It's for the school program. It's for Campaign 1000. The event is the conclave and the member type is graduate. Now, if I want to be able to track all this information for one entry, but to do it for the undergraduate, I got to create another account. If I want to do it for the honorary members, I got to create another account. Then if I do it for the lifetime members, another account. Now, this is just membership fees. So membership fees, and we haven't touched anything because we have to now create accounts with all of the possible permutations that are there if we want to be able to create reports. So here's the next batch we create. So these are, instead of conclaves, it's initiation, but I have to do 4 types. So what ends up happening is that we have 750 chapters per district. We have programs, campaigns, event member, and member types. So that means the 750 chapters that we have multiplied by the 6 programs, the 10 campaigns, the 10 events, and the 5 member types, we could have as many as 2,250,000 accounts for membership fees. That normally would be one account broken up into segments. Now, how does Sage Intacct deal with this? Okay, Sage Intacct, we want the same report with the same fields. So we create an account that's 4,000 membership revenue. And then what we do is we create dimensions. So instead of entering 2,250,000 entries, we enter 7 of them. So we've created 7 entries that allow us to do the reporting on all of these fields in any permutation we want. So essentially, one account, 6 dimensions. Let's go take a look at what these dimensions look like. So let me just go, I'll go to the order entries and we'll take a look at some sales orders that are here. So order entry, then we go order, what kind of order? I want a sales order inventory. And on this one, we'll see we have a whole bunch of sales orders here. So I'll come and click on the very first one. See what's there, look at the view. Oh, did I click properly? Yes, I did. Up on top here, typical header you'll see in any best practice software. So essentially, when the customer is entered, the contact is automatically entered. The terms are entered. Everything is there automatically. You shouldn't have to change anything. Ship via, all of that stuff is there. And when we look down below here, there's the entries. So what's interesting about the entries is we sold a t-shirt. Well, actually, we sold 25 t-shirts. But when we entered the t-shirt sale, we also entered what fund they're associated to, what site they're associated to, what program or grant, what restriction, and what department. So there's the account that was filled in, but all these dimensions also. Same thing is true for the beanie, same thing is true for the gospel album. So now what we're able to do with this is we're able to go back and, as I was saying, we're able to filter by all of these dimensions. Let me show you a very quick report, if you will. So here's a report I created called PS Revenue and Expenditures. I'm going to go take a look at it. By clicking on HTML, it renders it in an HTML format, which is clickable, and you can also drill down and do all the other interesting things on there. You can also export in CSV, you can export in PDF, Excel. Excel is always fun. I don't know if everybody knows this. Excel actually, I mean, ERP actually stands for Excel Replacement Program. That was just a joke. All right. So let's take a look at this report that I created. So the as of date, I'm going to put certain periods where I have data in the system. So we'll do that. Here also, I can filter on department or fund, but I'll show you at first, we're not going to do that. So let's click on OK and see what we get. So essentially, now we get our revenue and expenditure report. And the way that I built it is I built it by site. So there's the main site, Smithwick, Vance, Reedville, and here all sites. So already you're able to do a little bit of comparison. So we can compare, for example, grant revenue from site to site, as well as expenditures from site to site. So I find that really interesting, but maybe I want to look a little bit deeper. So I'll come up here and I'll click on my filters. And now I am going to filter by department. I got to reset this. I apologize. Whoops. So the department I want to look at is going to be the youth centers. So I click on OK. You'll notice we still have our columns that are per site, but how are the youth centers doing per site and how do they compare? So again, it's interesting to be able to see what the expenses are compared from one fund, one department, one site. And what's really neat here is, once again, what would you have to do in your current system to be able to do the what if scenarios where you want, hey, you know what? I want to see it by chapter and department, and I'd like to see it by fund, but I want to only do it for the fund that's, I don't know, fund XYZ. So what we're doing is we're not creating multiple versions of the same report. We're dynamically slicing and dicing it up. As I was saying, and what I'm showing you here is reports that can be configured and created, but this is not your day-to-day job. This is more configuration. Once it's done, it's done. And you're just coming back to view these reports from time to time. Something that becomes interesting here is, you know, people in finance will say, for example, they'll see a report like this and they'll say, can you give it to me in such and such a way, or can I see it in such and such a way? Well, typical systems are really complex and take a whole bunch of time. For us to do that is not really that complicated. I'll give you a quick, again, this is not a click-a-thon, a click fest. I'm not, you're not on any training here. So I'll show you what I go to do to modify a report very quickly. All right. So here I'm going to preview this report. This is the same report we were just looking at, but it's being previewed. So you'll notice here that the numbers are really for the sites. So we have the main Smithwick, Vance, and Reedville site. But you know what I'd like to see? I don't want to see them per site. I want to see them per department. All right. So what I'm going to do to change my report, again, I had the sites up at the top. Now I want them broken down per department. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to columns. And very quickly, is anybody counting how long this is going to take? So instead of my site group, I want it broken out by department. I come to department, I come here. Department categories, apologize. There we go. And now we'll go back to preview. And again, we had the sites up on top as the column headers. Now we have our different services. So the same underlying data, little tiny modification very quickly, and boom, we're in business. Some people ask, is there any programming involved for our reports? There's no programming involved. Also, when an ERP is implemented, I always recommend to implement it vanilla, which means according to the best practices of the industry that you're in, and not try to replicate the system that you already have. Some people will find that a bit difficult because where is this? I had this and gave me that. And then after working with it for a little while, realize, oh yeah, you know what? I didn't need it to do it this way or that way. The most efficient way is to do it according to the best practices. Something else I'm going to show you here. Something that Sage Intacct does really well. You see, these are all the features that I can use. So I'm going to go down to the general ledger reports in the general ledger section. This is really awesome. So let's say we want to go take a look at our GL report and we want to do a few what if scenarios. So let me come and configure them. So I'm going to put my start date, which was at the beginning of the year where I have data, and my end date. There we go. And then we'll scroll down a little bit. Do I put all the accounts? I'll leave them as is. Department name. Let's see, like that's right. And then I'll click on view. So here we go. So it's gone to get the general ledger for the period, that yearly period that I just put in. And you'll notice the journals are here, memo descriptions and so on. Oh, department name. That's interesting. Department name, as we were saying, is a dimension. It's not an account. But maybe I would like to see how the other dimensions fare here. So we'll click on customize and we'll come down here to select our, whoops, not right place. Apologize, my mouse. And we'll add some dimensions. So I was saying I have the department name. You know what I really like? I like the site. And I'd like I don't want restriction ID, I apologize. I want the site, and I'd also like the fund and the project. Fund name, project. Boom. Let's go back to our view. Zero programming, real time, everything is right here. All of these numbers are drillable right down to the underlying original transaction. As I was saying, in the setup environment, I don't have certain transactions, things were bulk imported, but we can go right down to the original transaction. I'll show you a little bit what it would look like. Oh, and also, you notice here we have our department, our site, our fund name, our project, our grant. So let's go 6645. I'll click on this, and it's going to give me the underlying. Here's the underlying entries that came up with that 6645. Now let's go back. I'm going to go back to my GL account. So I noticed that there was a whole bunch of information that came out for all of the different departments, all of the different projects, funds, and everything, all kind of mixed together. And we got all of those numbers. What if I want to drill down and make things a little bit more, again, a little bit more fine-tuned for what I'm trying to do here? So let's say I'll go to my department here, click on my youth center. And you can see all of the same numbers we had before, except that they're just pertain to the youth center. What's neat about this, also, we can always export to Excel, to CSV, to anything else we want to export it to. Two last things that I want to talk about. So the first thing I want to talk about is what we call the multi-entity environment. So we'll see over here, it says top level. And when I click on top level, we'll see some other entities down here. What exactly are those entities? Well, the way that Sage Intacct is built is we have a top level entity. Maybe I should use another word. We just call it top level. That's where your chart of account is defined. That's where a lot of your system is defined, your vendors, your clients, and so on. And then for your top level, you have entities down below it. And the entities, the way you define an entity is they've either got their own tax numbers, their own bank account. They're really an entity that's autonomous. So they're a legal entity, business unit. They could be a geographic operation as well. And I'll show you what those look like. So we have a general entity, which is in division XYZ. And then we have Colson Initiative, which is another entity. And this one is in the same state, if you will, as Colson. So we put them at the same color, and we use the nomenclature that you see often in accounting. And what does that look like? Well, what that looks like in our system is we have up here our top level entity, and down here are all of our other entities. So when I want to define things that are used in all the entities, I'll be up here at the top level. But when I want to, for example, create a transaction, a receivable, a payable, order entry, a sale, anything, I come and I click on the entity itself. So this way, now we're in the general entity, which is a level below the top. And what this allows us to do also is to segregate users and roles and permissions in an elegant way, because compliance for us is very, very important, and so is security. So here you'll see that where it says general, and there's a little color that changed underneath here. I could come to my top level and I want to work on Eastlake. I'll click on that. And here we go, Eastlake is here. For people working in Eastlake, when they are here and working on it and they pull out their reports, they will see the data from Eastlake. Somebody who's an admin will go to the top level and be able to see all of the data mixed together. What's really neat about this type of architecture is that consolidations become very, 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 very simple. And consolidations are done, throughout the month. Let me come back to show something to you here. Okay, so here what we can do is we can pull out the numbers for Colson Initiative and Eastlake, or we can pull out the numbers for the entire Orange family, if you will, or I can pull out the data from the general family, or I can just consolidate all of this together and bring it up on top to the top level. Even if your entities are in different currencies, multiple currencies, it's not a problem. It's absolutely doable with the system, and the system takes note of the best practices to put that into place. What I like with the multi-entity is that you're limiting your Excel interactions. What you're doing is you're getting the biggest bang for the buck to be able to have multiple. I don't want to use the word entity again because I've used it 1,000 times, but you can have multiple entities that will all drill up to a master top level. Last thing I want to talk about. Quick history lesson. History of ERPs. So in the 1990s, ERPs were not very ERP-ish. In the early 2000s, they were starting to get there. Now they're much, much more evolved. And they've evolved as programming has evolved and best practices and knowledge and organization and structures and so on have evolved. So in the 1990s, the way every ERP, Axupta, Great Plains, Navision, Solomon, SX Enterprise, Next Trend, P21, and the first four I named, Axupta, for example, has evolved and been bought by Microsoft. Now it's called Dynamics AX. Solomon's become Dynamics Sol. The Vision became Dynamics Nav and Dynamics GP. So all of these ERPs started the same way. They were created by a few people in their garage, maybe not their garage, but you get the point. A few people programming a core system. And the core systems, for all the CFOs around the table, I'm sorry to say this, but there were no core systems for financial anything. People wanted to manage their inventory, they wanted to manage their sales, they wanted to manage their clients. The last thing they wanted to do was accounting. So accounting was an afterthought. Let me show you how it worked. So people built an inventory control system. They spent time on that, programmed it, fantastic. And then they realized, okay, well, you know what? We're going to make sales and we're going to buy stuff. So we need to be able to enter orders as opposed to using imports and so on. So they created order entry systems. If they have an order entry system, we'll leave it a receivable system. So they created one of those. They created a purchasing feature to their environment. Then they created payables. Fantastic. Now they have kind of the heart of the system that they wanted. They get approached by somebody who has a CRM, and this person says, I got a great CRM. I'll sell it to you. You can integrate it. But the CRM doesn't work on the same type of database. It's not coded the same language. The documentation is different. Everything's different. But it doesn't matter. They integrate it because as long as the look and feel, the front end is the same, nobody's going to care. So this is how all of those big ERPs that we've heard about for decades and decades came to be and came to be complete. And by complete, I mean they're kind of generalists. They do a lot and they do a lot okay, but there's very few of them that will specialize in, you can't specialize in every feature that you put in. So then, companies will buy CRMs and plug them in their system. And then they get a WMS, and then they get field service management and projects and HR and TMS, and so on. After they got all this done, they realized, okay, I want to know if I'm making money or if I'm losing money. So then what they did is they got super accountant. And what they would do is they would extract their files at the end of the month and send them to super accountant. So the finance part of things was a complete afterthought. And anybody who's worked in any ERP knows it and feels it that finance is the end of the line as opposed to be the beginning. Where Sage Intacct is different, Sage Intacct was designed as a financial system with the reports and the dashboards and visibility and real-time everything that you need. Built into the system also were receivables, payables, order entry, inventory control projects, and so on. But over the years, working with so many different types of industries, Sage Intacct knows what the core features need to be for each of these. And we haven't gone beyond the best practices and the core features. Why? Because we don't want to spread ourselves too wide. We're really good at what we do in the financials. This is what we call the best of breed. We're really good at what we do in financials. We're really good at what we do in receivables and payables and purchasing and so on. But if you want inventory control that's going to give you your runners, ABCDs, and where to put them in the warehouse, and that'll allow you to move material from one container to the other while it's overseas, that's not us. But there are companies that do that. So, for example, we have right now an order entry system, but people are just entering orders manually. We want to be on the web. So what do? We open up a Shopify site. Shopify, fantastic site, very solid. WooCommerce, whatever, any flavor of the month. And we connect that through an API with Sage Intacct. Now, the implementation team hates when I say this, but to implement Shopify is a few clicks, a few bells and whistles that need to be mapped and so on. But it's already been built into the system. And we have so many implementations with so many of the APIs that are out there. And we have a huge ecosystem of best of breed software that wants to connect with us. So we'll take our Shopify, and if we need anything else, we'll go and we'll get those systems as well and plug them into our financial system. So now we know we still have the best financial system, but we also have the best WMS system, for example, because the people working in the WMS system do nothing but working on a WMS. They're not working payroll, they're not working on a CRM. That's what they do. So I think it's a really important point to help people understand why the old ERP monolith is not really as fantastic as people thought it was, because it does a lot of everything, but kind of okay, does lot of everything. There used to be the concept of, oh my God, I don't want to log into two systems and it's so complicated. And the way things are integrated today, there's very minimal logging in and getting into different systems. All right. So an intact operations exists to support finance, not the other way around. Absolutely. It's what we do first. If we need other things like a WMS, an HR, a transport management system, we go get those and we plug them in. So the reporting, the data structure, and the controls were all designed for finance first. They're not an afterthought like you see. I know you've seen them in all the systems you've worked on. Instead of trying to do everything, Intact focuses on doing finance extremely well. All right. So essentially, best of breed, and the reason it's called the best of breed is because we're able to get superior reporting because that's all that we do in the Sage Intacct. So we get our dimensional model makes our chart of accounts so much easier. We can get real-time insight. Our analysis is flexible without redesign every time. People are not spending 40 hours compiling Excel spreadsheets and to only spend 1 hour doing analysis. People are clicking on the button. Our reports exist. Now we have 40 hours to analyze. It's a much better use of the brains around the table. And I always think to myself, bang for the buck. I don't want somebody that I'm paying X amount to be compiling Excel spreadsheets when they could be doing analysis, which, in my humble opinion, is worth much more. It's a cleaner architecture. So instead of having all these systems that have been kind of put together with duct tape, the architecture is very, very clean. So there's no chart of account explosions. Remember, I was talking about 2,250,000 accounts just for membership fees if you want to be able to do a whole bunch of drill down. The business context is handled through dimensions. So as I was saying, finance is our accounts and business intelligence is the dimensions. We also have faster closes and better control. We have built-in workflows, a lot of automations built into the system again today. We don't, in an hour, there's not much time to present all the bells and whistles, but it's unbelievable what Sage Intacct has been able to do with AI and help the system learn about your business as you're entering information. Fantastic for auditability. As you saw, we were drilling down. I mean, audits are fantastic. Consistent financial structure because your chart of accounts is defined once. The neat thing about our best of breed is it's so integration friendly. So there's open APIs, which are application programming interfaces, which help map systems one to the other. Again, if you're looking for an integration, we've already done it. So we have expertise in those integrations. So it works with a CRM, for example, Salesforce, HubSpot, there's APIs. The industry tools like Procore, of course, almost click, 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 click. Maybe I shouldn't say that for the implementation people, but you don't need one system to do everything. You need the best systems to do the parts that you need to do. Okay, so what did we look at today? So we looked at reporting and dashboards, which again, as I was saying, there's first light. You don't know what you don't know. So when you first see those dashboards, wow, that absolutely transforms everything. Not many people get the cold sweat moment where they're like, oh my God, things are bad. Usually it's like, wow, this is really good. And look at that. And look at this over here. And let's drill down. So it's a very exciting time. We looked at dimensional reporting flexibility instead of huge charts of accounts. We looked at multi-entity management with simplifies consolidations, and also you can do the what if scenarios with comparisons. And we looked at the best of breed approach, where finance sits at the center of your system, not as an afterthought. So ultimately, this is about giving finance teams faster insight, better control, and the ability to scale without increasing complexity. We didn't go a lot into compliance and security, but it's something that's very important for us. There's a whole bunch of features that we just, in an hour, we don't have time to talk about. But again, the idea of our meeting today was a little bit to wet your whistle, to let you see what Sage Intacct can do at 30,000 feet. We didn't click in all the features and get lost, and there's none of that. But the next step would be to take a look at how your company works, what your reporting structure is, the different workflows you have, your requirements, and so on in the discovery process. And once we have all of that and we know who you are, then we're able to fine tune a demo for your business. So if projects are what's most important to you, we would demo that as opposed to accounts receivable or opposed to time is money. And we want to help you make a decision as quickly as possible. So again, that's it. We're not trying to show you everything. We're trying to help you decide whether it's worth going deeper. And again, going deeper means we go look at who you are and we give you a fine-tuned demo. And at the fine-tuned demo, that's where things can become much more concrete, much easier for you to figure out, is Sage Intacct the system for you? In my humble opinion, I think it is.
You did a great job. They understand that this is just a high level overview.
That's it.
A lot to get into with approvals and AP and other modules that you'd like to see. Oh, something just popped up in the Q&A. How does Intact distribute reports to department heads? Asks Maureen.
You know what's really neat is there's a zillion different ways to do that. You can have reports that are auto, like on a cron system, that are auto generated, sent out to different people at different times. Because, I'll give you an example. I worked with a sales team where we'd given them all the reports, but they weren't generating them. So then we, of course, had them just mail automatically. So at least they had it in their inbox. The path of least resistance is what we want to give to our people, and we want to give them all the functionalities they can have right at their fingertips. What you can also do is have a dashboard for all of those people. Instead of sending out an email, they come into a dashboard in the morning and there's a list of all the reports that they need to go look at. So again, that one-stop shop that gives them exactly where they stand.
Perfect. The other question from Maureen following that is, do the recipients need to have Intact licenses?
No, remember when I know we went so fast. When we were looking at the reports, you can have the HTML reports, CSV, Excel, PDFs. So you don't need to have an Intact license to be able to receive those files, for example, the PDF or the HTML, but you won't be able to drill down if you don't have a license. If I'm not mistaken, Neil, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the employee users do have read-only access to modules and they'll be able to see all those reports as well if they do have a license, but you can share those in different formats as well with ones that do not have licenses.
Yeah, you can schedule. I'll just jump in for a second. You can schedule your reports to email out in PDF format, and they could go to anybody. You
Mhm.
you can hard code the email addresses that the PDF report would email to. So to view the report in Intact, they would need a license to like drill down, or if you store it in Intact. But if you just want them to have a copy of the reports, then no, they don't need a license for Intact at all.
That looks like that's all we got. If anything else comes up, or if you'd like to see a custom demo, you can reach out to your consultant. If I happen to be the consultant that is working with you, feel free to reach out anytime and we will set something up for you. But thanks so much, Pierre. Thanks a lot, Matthew. Thanks everyone for joining us. Appreciate you, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.